Indigenous people, the Mbororo, especially women and girls, have for the past decades witnessed an upsurge in vulnerability. The situation across communities in Cameroon had devastating effects on their socio-economic, political and cultural activities. A catalogue of challenges they face, amongst them violation of rights, sexual and gender-based violence, poor services for women and girls, forced marriages within indigenous communities, non-involvement in leadership and political activities, discrimination and marginalization, among others. These situations were further compounded by the crisis rocking the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, which raised the number of destruction and IDP cases, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic.
We get money for Bamenda, we not get no problem, not get no crisis, but DT don't come now. It don't destroy all things. Even farm will be the work and the chop. They don't kick it all, picking them with bread as them.
From Jikwa subdivision, this crisis that are out like this. So came here, we don't have anything. So I beat my child. My child was not having milk on her breast. So I was feeding him. So there is no feeding now. The child is sick. There is no money to take him to the hospital. And
how old is the child?
6 months.
6 months.
Yes.
And how old are you?
16 years.
Where's the father of the child?
He's in the village.
Which class?
Form 2. If I have uniform, book, and my school fees, I can go back to school.
These and many others led to the intervention of the known governmental organization called Forum de Femmes Autochtones du Cameroun FFAC, otherwise known in English as the Cameroon Indigenous Women's Forum Kairouv.
We have intervened in 50 communities within 7 regions in Cameroon, reaching out to 50,000 people in the areas of training, capacity building, health, governance, economic empowerment, education, human rights advocacy, and psychosocial support, amongst others.
For the past 10 years, FFAC has been on the field with some palpable achievements. 120 women and girls from the Mbororo indigenous communities, as well as key women leaders, were trained on sexual and gender-based violence and reproductive health and supported with information, education and communication materials to carry out public awareness raising campaigns. 12,880 indigenous women and girls were directly reached in sensitization campaigns, while 4,320 other community members were sensitized and informed on forms and ills of sexual and gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health rights. 11,200 indigenous women and girls are directly reached in sensitization campaigns, and 1,800 other community members sensitized and informed on forms and ills of sexual and gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health rights. At least 75% of them reported an increased knowledge on laws, policies, and services. 110 community gender-based violence monitoring and early warning committees are set up, while 140 women and girls trained on sexual and reproductive health rights advocacy, mediation, and gender-based violence issues. 430 women and girls whose rights have been violated or were at risk of violation lodge complaints at the appropriate services seeking redress are able to continually demand and ascertain their rights. They are being given protection by competent services. 1,120 members from the Mbororo indigenous communities, as well as key women leaders in 10 fully functional committees, took leadership roles in campaigns and conducting workshops to train others on the forms and ills of gender-based violence, as well as protection. Negative sociocultural norms that promote the practice of sexual and gender-based violence were mapped, reviewed, and redressed. 15 media organizations publicly endorsed the sexual and reproductive health rights advocacy campaign and increased its coverage, thus demonstrating accurate and holistic understanding from a human rights perspective. 1,250 traditional, community and religious leaders were invited to sexual and reproductive health rights, sexual and gender-based violence advocacy workshops. Equally, they reviewed the negative sociocultural norms that promote the practice and how they can be redressed. Officials and opinion leaders, made up of traditional rulers, members of their traditional councils, and municipal council representatives, were directly reached in sensitization campaigns and forms and ills of gender-based violence and their legal framework. 1,200 leaders from different profile groups at the level and from traditional justice system took part in reflection forums and developed strategies to reduce and deal with victims and perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence, stigma and discrimination.
On essaie de voir ces problèmes des jeunes filles-là. Parce que les jeunes filles-là, ils sont dans des problèmes, vraiment, dans des choses qui ne les méritent pas. Il faut leur donner leur valeur. Donc voilà pourquoi il faut qu'on nous associe, nous les imams, les chefs de quartier. On va travailler sur ça.
When we look at issues that concern sexual and gender-based violence and the rights of indigenous people, we realize that we've had a lot of heated debates on different social media platforms. This is only an indication that it is a serious matter. They decry it a lot. The legal system of Cameroon cannot be left out on this issue. As a legal practitioner and as a gender activist, I think that the state has really gone a long way to protect victims of sexual and gender-based violence. It is true that we really don't have a particular law per se that it's against sexual and gender-based violence, but we have other legal instruments that have been put in place that victims can always use to get protection and to get remedy from such offenses. With the Constitution of Cameroon states in its preamble that everybody is free. Everybody has the right to exercise themselves as a person, as a group of persons. And so we realize that the rights of indigenous people have been protected in the Constitution. It does not specify that a man or a woman or this particular group of people. It includes every Cameroonian, and indigenous people are included. Boys are included, girls are included, men and women, children, everyone has the right.
Over 5,000 persons were sensitized on the importance of participating in public affairs.
What I have to say to these women that they have to stand up. The time have passed. It is not like before. We need to educate ourselves as women. They should encourage also the education of their children so that by tomorrow those children can also stand up and be important personality who can stand and talk. 2,500
registered on the electoral list and in positions of their electoral cards during the legislative and municipal elections in 2019. In the Adamawa region, 3,500 women and girls accomplished their voting rights on election day. 20 women supported and presented their candidatures at the 2019 elections, and 10 were voted as councillors and deputy mayor.
For the first time, I am happy and very delighted to see my sisters Moro coming out and asking for the accomplishment of electoral duties. We have to accompany them. We will go with them wherever they need us.
C'est grâce à cette association que je suis devenu conseiller. Grâce à leur sensibilisation qui m'ont poussé de faire ma candidature et ils m'ont soutenu. Et me voici maintenant, je suis conseiller municipal de l'arrondissement d'Engaoui.
In the domain of education, 2,000 girls have benefited from scholarships and school didactic materials.
Contente parce qu'on m'a donné les dons et ça va beaucoup m'aider à l'école pour que mes parents ne dépensent pas beaucoup et ça va aussi m'aider à apprendre aussi à aller bien à l'école et aller de l'avant.
100 women survivors of gender-based violence benefited from income-generating activities, and today they own and control their businesses.
Des femmes autochtones d'avoir pensé à nous et c'est vraiment un très gros cadeau que je m'attendais pas. Ça a été une surprise parce que j'en avais vraiment besoin. Et quand j'ai reçu ce coup de fil, j'ai dit que ouf, je suis sortie du galet. Et cette fois-ci, je promets que la prochaine fois, ça sera mon tour d'aider les autres.
This is through the provision of basic economic startup kits, sales of foodstuff, provisions, tailoring, restaurant, firewood, fish roasting, rearing of table birds, call box operators, etc. were engaged.
I don't give it 3 sewing machine. They pay me workshop for 6 months. FFAC and Amplify Change help me. I say go change our life.
We are really appreciating what Kawo has done to these women who are victims of gender-based violence by empowering them with working tools that will go a long way to help these women, to help their children, because most of them are IDPs. They don't even have food, they don't even have houses to stay. They need empowerment, and they have done just that to them.
They don't encourage me to get a restaurant or be able to feed my 4 kids a day. Now,
Bororo woman, they will be done really suffer. They will be done see say like the suffer one finish today. At the prem I go set best next year like now. I'll get my house where I go sit down inside because now so at the rent house where you no get door.
FFAC and partners did intervene in scaling out the ravaging effects of COVID-19 pandemic by providing hand sanitizers, face masks, soap, and educated the indigenous community on the barrier measures.
90 women were trained on the new techniques of agriculture, and today they own their farms, where they cultivate vegetables for consumption and for commercialization.
We appreciate the initiative of IWOOF for gathering the rural women precisely in the Mororo community to benefit this training how to fight climate change. Kawish is doing much, and we see one Kawish to continue to empower these rural women through this training of agricultural production, the growing of tomatoes, cabbages. We also want Kawish to do something on the biogas training. This will go a long way to help the rural women to reduce pressure on firewood.
Capacities of 50 leaders of women organizations were built on climate change and the Red Plus process. On their return, they restituted it in their different communities. Conservation of forest ecosystem and protection of the environment can't be overemphasized.
We are very grateful you came. We thank you so much. You have helped us. May God bless and accompany you.
We have observed that the sexual and gender-based violence keep on rising with the high number of internally displaced persons due to the ongoing crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest region. We have the COVID pandemic around. Our ecosystem are poorly managed, endangering the ecosystem. We have a low rate of participation of indigenous people, especially women, in areas of decision making. And therefore, we intend to intensify our actions in improving the above-mentioned cases.
40 households benefited from ameliorated fire sites, thus reaching out to more than 1,000 persons in the Northwest region.
For the fire where they don't put alcohol, the fire they cook fine. When you put chop, you know go past few minutes then the chop done and pour them to know the dirty. We really thank FFAC very much.
FFAC has been able to achieve this thanks to her partners like Amplify Change on the gender-based violence project.
My experience working with the Cameroon Indigenous Women Forum has been such a pleasure. They have a very impressive and holistic approach to how they work in their communities, as well as being able to work with high-level stakeholders to evaluate policies and laws that help to protect and support women. On behalf of the Amplify Change team, I would like to thank Cameroon Indigenous Women Forum for the amazing work that they continue to do.
Equality Fund on the promotion of girls' leadership and education.
At the Equality Fund, I am the Vice President of Global Programs in the organization, and I couldn't be more honored to have been able to support all of you, a self-led Moromboro women's rights organization working on so many important issues like sexual violence, early child marriage, political participation. Keep doing the great work.
FAMI on political participation. Land is Life for the Land Rights Project. FIDO on the climate change and red plus process. With and for girls on the Ending Child Marriage Project.
We have had a veritable support and partnership from our partners. The entire team of FFAC and the people of Cameroon wish to thank you all for your support in improving the livelihood of indigenous women and girls in Cameroon.
A great collaboration equally from the Cameroon administrative authorities and sectoral ministries continue to laud FFAC for all her measures in improving livelihood, which complements government endeavors.
Vous savez, la Constitution prévoit déjà dans ses dispositions du préambule que le gouvernement camerounais garantit le droit des autochtones et combien de fois le droit des femmes et filles de toutes les communautés minoritaires. Et tel que j'ai vu le bilan de cette association, nous ne pourrons que nous en réjouir parce que du moins le gouvernement ne cessera de faire et de mener des actions pour éradiquer toutes les discriminations possibles concernant les femmes et les filles, autochtones surtout, et minoritaires en plus. Et nous ne pouvons qu'encourager ce forum des femmes autochtones du Cameroun parce que la tâche est immense. Cette association vient donner un coup de main à l'action qui est menée par l'administration dans divers domaines économiques, sociaux et même dans le partenariat qui nous lie par rapport à ces associations qui accompagnent l'administration. Donc, pour dire que nous ne pouvons qu'être ravis et nous ne pouvons qu'encourager Madame la coordinatrice, Madame Aïssetou Bouba, qui, de par son dynamisme, son engagement, a su réunir autour d'elle les femmes et les hommes volontaires pour mener ce combat dans notre pays.
Alliances with traditional and religious leaders in various communities in ending gender-based violence have been established. FFAC successfully carried out a fact-finding mission to the crisis regions of the Northwest and IDP settlements and established the impact of the crisis on the Mbororo, especially women and girls. The findings, which were packaged in form of a documentary, was accompanied with psychosocial counseling and is currently creating awareness on the plight of the indigenous people. FFAC has gained an indisputable exposure in the past 10 years. The organization have been present at events organized both at the local, national, and the international scene. The outbursts of the socio-political crisis, which have caused many to flee their homes and communities in very precarious conditions as the situation remains volatile. A lot has been achieved in the course of the organization's intervention within the past 10 years. People are now aware and are taking up active role in the fight against gender-based violence. Acquiring justice for victims of gender-based violence has been facilitated, while their livelihood has been impacted by economic activities. Indigenous women and girls are now taking up leadership roles. The gender-based violence monitoring and early warning committees are functional in various communities, while the scholarization rate within the indigenous people continue to rise. These are indisputable assets as we keep witnessing a geometric growth on livelihood.